My name is Emma, and I will never forget the Saturday when my family and I became trapped inside a shopping mall during a terrible fire. Before that day, I thought fires only happened in movies or on the news. I never imagined that something so frightening could happen to us. Whenever I hear a fire alarm now, I remember every sound, every smell, and every feeling from that afternoon. It was the beginning of December, and the weather outside was cold and rainy. My mother decided it was the perfect day to go shopping because we needed warm clothes before winter became colder. My younger brother Jake was 10 years old, and he was excited because Mom promised to buy him a new pair of sneakers. I was 16, and I mainly wanted to spend time with my family. We laughed together during the drive, singing along to songs on the radio while raindrops covered the car windows. The shopping mall was already crowded when we arrived. Hundreds of people walked through the bright entrance carrying colorful shopping bags. Christmas decorations hung from the ceiling. Large trees covered with lights stood in every hallway, and cheerful holiday music played through the speakers. Everything looked warm and happy despite the cold weather outside. Our first stop was a clothing store where Mom found a beautiful blue winter coat. She smiled as she tried it on in front of a mirror. Jake joked that she looked like a movie star, and we all laughed. After that, we visited a sports store so Jake could choose his sneakers. He spent almost 30 minutes trying different pairs before finally deciding on white shoes with blue stripes. He walked around proudly, saying he could run faster now. By lunchtime we were all hungry. We rode the escalator to the third-floor food court. The smell of pizza, fried chicken, coffee, and fresh bread filled the air. Families sat together eating meals while children laughed and pointed at colorful desserts. We found an empty table beside a large window overlooking the parking lot. Rain continued falling outside, but inside the mall everything felt comfortable and safe. Mom ordered hot soup and bread. Jake chose the biggest hamburger on the menu with extra fries. I ordered a grilled chicken sandwich and orange juice. While we ate, we talked about school, Christmas gifts, and our plans for the winter vacation. It was one of those simple family moments that seemed ordinary but later became unforgettable. As I reached for my drink, I noticed something unusual. There was a strange smell in the air. At first it was very faint, almost impossible to notice. I thought someone had accidentally burned food in one of the restaurants nearby. I looked around, but everyone continued eating and talking normally. A few moments later the smell became stronger. It was no longer the smell of burned food. It smelled like smoke. Mom stopped eating and looked around the food court. "Do either of you smell that?" she asked quietly. Jake nodded slowly. "It smells weird." Before anyone could say another word, the lights flickered once. They went dark for only a second before turning back on. Some people looked up at the ceiling, but most returned to their conversations. Then the fire alarm suddenly exploded through the building. The loud beeping echoed across the entire mall. Everyone froze. For one long second nobody moved. Then a calm voice came through the speakers. "Attention, please leave the building immediately using the nearest emergency exit." Some people stood up immediately. Others looked confused. One man laughed and said it was probably another false alarm. But before anyone could relax, thick gray smoke drifted into the food court from a nearby hallway. Someone screamed. Panic spread through the crowd almost instantly. Chairs fell over as people rushed toward the exits. Parents grabbed their children. Employees shouted directions while trying to stay calm. Mom immediately grabbed my hand. "Emma, hold on to Jake. Stay together." Jake's eyes were wide with fear. His small hand squeezed mine so tightly that it hurt, but I did not let go. We followed the crowd toward the nearest emergency staircase. Unfortunately, hundreds of people had the same idea. Within minutes the stairwell became packed. Nobody could move quickly because there were simply too many people trying to leave at once. The smoke continued following us. People started coughing. Children cried loudly. An elderly woman leaned against the wall because she was struggling to breathe. A young man wearing a business suit immediately stepped beside her and supported her arm. He stayed with her instead of pushing ahead like many others. Even in that frightening moment, I realized that kindness still existed. Jake began coughing too. Mom quickly opened her purse and took out a bottle of water. She poured a little water onto 3 clean handkerchiefs. "Cover your mouth and nose," she said. We did exactly as she instructed. Breathing became slightly easier, although our eyes still burned from the smoke. Several minutes passed, but the crowd hardly moved. Then a security guard wearing a bright yellow vest climbed up the stairs toward us. "Everyone stay calm," he shouted loudly. "The lower exit is blocked by smoke. Follow me. There's another emergency route." Nobody argued. We trusted him completely. He led us through an employee hallway hidden behind heavy metal doors. The hallway looked completely different from the beautiful shopping areas. The walls were plain gray. Large boxes were stacked against the sides, and emergency lights flashed above our heads. The air felt warmer, and smoke floated near the ceiling. Jake whispered, "I'm scared." I smiled even though I felt terrified myself. "I know," I said. "But we're staying together." Mom squeezed both our shoulders. "We're going home," she said with confidence. Her voice made me feel stronger. Eventually we reached another emergency staircase. This one was much less crowded. We quickly began walking downward. 3rd floor, 2nd floor, 1st floor, everything seemed to be improving. Then suddenly another firefighter opened the door below us. "Stop," he called. Everyone immediately froze. "There is heavy smoke below this level. Turn around and go back up." Several people gasped in disbelief. "Back up?" someone asked. "Yes," the firefighter answered firmly. "We're taking everyone to the roof." The roof? None of us had expected that. We climbed back up, tired and frightened. Every step felt heavier than the last. Jake's legs were beginning to hurt, so Mom encouraged him with gentle words. "You can do it. Just a little farther." Finally we reached the top floor. A firefighter pushed open a large metal door, and cold fresh air rushed inside. I breathed as deeply as I could. The roof was covered with light rain. The cool air felt wonderful after breathing smoke for so long. Dozens of people were already waiting there. Firefighters handed out blankets to children and older adults. Some people cried quietly, others sat on the wet ground holding hands with family members. From the roof we could see thick black smoke pouring from one corner of the mall. Fire trucks surrounded the building. Police officers blocked traffic while ambulances waited nearby with flashing lights. The firefighters spoke constantly through their radios. One firefighter smiled kindly at Jake. "You're very brave," he said. Jake gave a nervous smile. "I was really scared." "So was everyone," the firefighter replied. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid." Those words stayed with me. After about 20 minutes, the firefighters announced that another emergency staircase had been cleared and was now safe to use. Small groups began leaving the roof one after another. When it was finally our turn, firefighters stood on every landing encouraging us. "Watch your step. You're almost outside. Keep moving." The closer we came to the ground floor, the more hopeful I felt. Then at last we stepped outside into the cold afternoon rain. Fresh air filled my lungs. I had never been so happy to stand in the rain. People gathered in the parking lot while emergency workers checked everyone for injuries. Some families hugged each other tightly. Others searched anxiously for loved ones. Nearby, a little girl suddenly spotted her father. "Daddy," she shouted before running into his arms. Everyone around them smiled. It was a beautiful reminder that even after fear, happiness could return. A paramedic examined Jake because he had inhaled some smoke. She listened carefully to his breathing before smiling reassuringly. "He's going to be just fine," she told Mom. Mom thanked her several times. Later we learned that an electrical problem in a storage room behind one of the clothing stores had started the fire. The sprinklers had slowed the flames, but smoke spread quickly through the ventilation system before firefighters arrived. Thanks to the emergency alarms, the security staff, and the firefighters, thousands of people escaped safely. That evening we stayed home together. Nobody felt like going anywhere. Mom made hot chocolate, and we sat under warm blankets watching an old family movie. Every now and then Jake quietly hugged Mom, and she hugged him back without saying a word. Before I went to bed, I stood by my bedroom window. The rain had finally stopped, and the stars shone brightly in the night sky. I thought about everyone who had helped us that day. The security guard who guided frightened strangers. The young man who helped the elderly woman. The firefighters who walked into danger while everyone else ran away. The paramedics who treated every person with kindness and patience. That experience changed the way I see emergencies. I no longer ignore fire alarms or assume they are false. Whenever I enter a mall, movie theater, hotel, or airport, I quietly notice where the emergency exits are located. It only takes a few seconds, but those few seconds could save a life. Most importantly, I learned that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to help others even when you are frightened yourself. We entered that shopping mall expecting nothing more than a relaxing afternoon together. Instead, we experienced the most frightening day of our lives. Yet because we stayed calm, listened carefully, trusted the emergency workers, and never let go of one another, we made it home safely. That day taught me a lesson I will carry forever. In moments of danger, staying together, thinking clearly, and helping others can make all the difference.